Okay. So here we go. We're going to look at the combat. And let me see. I am going to remove the audio source. Yeah, remove component. I'm actually going to remove this completely. Mostly because this will make our lives easier in terms of loading things. Well, let's just look at. I didn't do anything with the canvas here, so that's cool. I've got object cubes in here, so basically to be basically block things to block volume. Player 1, player 2. I'm gonna focus on just player 1. All right. If you want to, well, if you, we'll talk about how we would implement player 2 in another moment. But basically, again, we had this combat player script, and let's just go over. Where is the combat player script? It's probably under scripts. Yeah, is it lab 4? Nope. Lab 6. Here's combat player. Okay. So let's just take a look at the combat player. And there's a lot in here. And again, those of you who are in Game Simulation 2, we're going to look at this script and we're going to there's going to be big changes. But we know that the big thing was the input number here. That's what we're going to control. Again, in our update, we get the input. We get input from the input number. And then for our purposes, we basically set variables from the left subject, right subject, north, south, east, west button. All right. If we look at get input player 0, that's the gamepad. And that's what I want. That's why we're going to start with player 0 in this particular way, because we're going to start with basically we're going to start. Basically, what we're again, for our purposes, it's not about the complete game per se right now. It's more about we're going to set this up to be basically we're setting this up. We're going to assume single player game. So we're like, I know we have 2 players in our combat game, but we'll assume just a single player right now. And the first player we're going to set to input 0 and get the gamepad. And that's going to be important because that how we are going to go from our on-screen components is going to be mapping it to gamepad. And we'll see that in one moment. So this is where I just wanted to give us where we are starting from and where our script is. Again, for those of you who are when we talk about Game Simulation 2, we're going to talk a lot about how to handle this code better. In fact, a lot of this input code is going to get pulled out of this class. So just be mindful of what's going on. Here's our get input 0. So all right, I'm going to close this down. We do have a canvas. We have an event system, so we've got something to play with right now. I'm going to go to the game view. Again, as always, I like going to having a panel. I get rid of, again, remove the component. And essentially, I'm using the panel as my empty game object for things. Again, and this is going to be my, let's call it player 1 on-screen controls. And I'm going to start by creating, go to UI, and I'm going to create an image. And I'm going to make this, we'll do 50 by 50. I'll do 45. Yeah, that should be good. So what I need here is I need basically 4. I'm gonna need 4 images. I'm gonna rename. I'm gonna duplicate these. And this is going to be the left joystick. This is going to be the right joystick. This will be left button. And this will be the right button. And I'm basically going to spread these out. And this is why I'm using the canvas, so I can basically parent to this location. I'm going to do negative, do 150, 125. There we go. Left button, negative 75. There. So the right button will be 50, and the right joystick, 125. All right, so let's focus on the joysticks right now. We'll start with, we're going to collapse everything for our purposes right now. And we're going to add a component, and it's going to be on, there is on-screen stick and on-screen button. We'll start with the stick. And it's basically what's the movement range? How much is this going to be able to move? I'm actually going to bring in the left and right button in. Do negative 30 and 30. I'll bring these in so we got more room for them. And I'm going to just basically say, hey, I'm going to say this is the range of 75. All right, what you can't see at the moment right here is control path. When we bring this down, it's like, hey, what are we going to map this to? And for our purposes, we're going to go to the gamepad. And this is going to go to the left stick. And I'm literally going to do the same thing. On-screen stick, and movement range of 75. Control path, gamepad, right stick. And there's, exact position with static origin, exact position with diameter. Yeah, I'm going to use relative position with static origin. And that's because I've made this relative to this object. And then I'm going to go, let's go to the left button. On-screen button. And the control path, again, we're going to go to gamepad. And I'm going to use, this will be button west. Actually, I'll come back to that one moment. Actually, let's take a look at, because we do know that we mapped left stick, right stick. What did we map the inputs to? South button and east button. So basically that's what I want. So fire 1, fire 2. So I'm going to be the south button. And then the right button. Again, we'll add a component, on-screen stick. Sorry, not on-screen stick. A component, on-screen button. Gamepad. And this will be the east. Yep, south, east. Okay. Let's make our lives a little bit easier so we know what is going on. We're just going to UI, Text Mesh Pro, make the color black. We'll make this 24. And then okay, so we only know we're going to make this with a 50. Okay, here we go. So we'll do 40, 40. Do actually. There you go, 30 by 30. And that's going to get us in the middle. I'm just going to duplicate. Duplicate. And so this is basically, we're going to zero out the X effectively on these. And so this is going to be there we go. Just gonna just hit these at 35 just so we have the left button. So this is going to be left button, and this will be right button. There we go. So we've got them all labeled effectively. And what I'm going to do now, I can take the player controls. I can drop, not left, top. Do 150. There we go. So I'll drop them down here. I'll press play. And then for testing purposes, you can see, and was there something wrong? And we'll move the canvas. Yeah, we should be okay. And let's take a look at player one, and yeah, it's not set. There we go. So you can see that I'm moving the tank. You can rotate the tank, and so all the controls are basic. So basically, again, the goal of what we're doing here is basically we're creating these on-screen components and then mapping them to the gamepad. And then just by the virtue that we've mapped it to the gamepad, I mean, I didn't have to write any new code for my combat player. Right? We basically mapped it to, we created an interface that would go to basically our, that would go to it. Obviously, there's things like, you know, we don't have like traditional, like the buttons, like we're not getting any input on that button, which is something that something that can be talked about later on. Again, these sticks right here, again, so I can actually go off screen. I can drag it off screen in this case. So, I mean, one of the things I could think about doing, you know, let's actually stop. Let's go put this down to like 25 and 25. You know, we can actually take our scale. We can actually scale it down. So here, we're now keeping that on screen. So you can see that everything is working with the game as intended. And that's one of the things to think about is that there is your core of your game. And how you work with the core of your game is basically, I mean, ultimately, you know, I've got keyboard controls. I've got gamepad controls. I've now got an on-screen component that works like the gamepad. Now, if I was basically setting this up for, let me stop it for one moment. Let's go back to our screen controls. I do want to rotate it. Oh, nope. Is it the Z? Yeah. So one of the things I could do here is basically like, hey, negative 200 be 500. bring this back to 0. So I basically could set it up over here. Again, you can see that it's relative to, so basically I would want to be able to set up the second player over here. Now the problem is that we would need to set this up. There'd be a lot more code. What's the best way? You can set up 2 gamepads in Unity, but there's a lot more setup in terms of that, and we haven't gone over that in either this and that's more something that would be if you, for those who are in game simulation 2, that would be a good research project actually, is setting up multiple gamepads, setting up multiple screens. So we would have basically portioning the screen. So doing multiple gamepads, local multiplayer with multiple screen segments. So we're thinking like GoldenEye. When I mean by GoldenEye, I'm talking about the N64 GoldenEye. Let me bring that up quickly. N64 GoldenEye multiplayer. There we go. This is the image we want to look at.
Ooh, we didn't play it.
What was that? No. I'm bringing up a classic game. So here is a multiplayer game on the N64. It was totally local multiplayer, and each of these screens right here were set up basically for each of the players.
No
So.
odd job. No.
There's a reason for no odd job. Basically, we for those who didn't hear, someone just yelled out "no odd job." Also, no proxies in the stack.
No what?
Proxies in the stack.
What was that?
Proxy grenades. This is the level at the stack. This is this level. It's so easy to mine. Okay, just to tell you how ruthless me and my friends were. We would mine start points with proxy grenades.
Jeez, y'all are evil.
Oh yeah, we're evil. Of course we're evil.
I love it.
Yay! I mean, what would you expect from Festivalholic other than pure evilness? We'll talk about how I'm evil in other ways another time.
Alrighty.
But moving on. So ultimately, basically, the goal again. So Unity with the new input system can easily do multiple inputs. You can do setting up the screen sizes, whatnot. That's all there. That's why Unity basically built their new input system, because their old input system was garbage.
Yeah.
How do we know this? Sony made their own input system to replace Unity's because it was garbage. How do I know this? Because I've done work on the PlayStation 4 and the Vita console, and they had that's one of the things that we got with. So when you work with a particular platform, it's like, how we like there's a module for HTML and a module for Android and a module for Windows and a module for Linux and iOS and Mac. It's basically for how Unity works. There's just another module you get from Sony with the appropriate license to use that appropriately. It's just another package you add to Unity to export out with. I built. So again, one of the things that to give you an idea of how portable Unity is. Again, this is now several years ago. I made a plane out of primitives in Unity, just so I had something to move around, and I got that up and running on the HoloLens, and I connected the PlayStation 1 controller to the HoloLens and used that on the HoloLens. Once I had that up and running, I managed to get that over to the Xbox One. I got it over onto the PlayStation 4. I got it over on the PlayStation Vita, which is part of the PlayStation platform. Just so you know, the Vita is still part of the PlayStation family of devices. And I had a PC build, obviously. And they all basically all used a controller. You know, they all had controller controls. You know, I plugged in a controller to the PC for that purposes. Worked on all the platforms with very little. I don't think I had to change many code, but this is using the old input system, and so buttons were mapped differently. This is one of the weird things. Buttons were mapped differently from the PlayStation style to an Xbox style. Buttons were mapped differently. Yeah, there's all sorts of this.
Isn't it the same layout thing as this?
Yeah, but the buttons were laid out differently.
Oh.
So what was button 0 on a PlayStation controller was different from on the Xbox controller.
Yeah,
Again, why? And this is the old input system. This is just scrapping at the issues with that old input system. Again, at that time, again, we're talking about Unity about now 8 years ago. Most people got a new input system. Basically there were third-party input device systems that you got out of the asset store to replace Unity's input system because it was garbage. Hence why we have the new input system. So,
How new is the new input system?
what was that?
How new is the new input system?
I mean, it's good. I mean, it's mature now. Yeah, like one of the things about before in like Unity 5.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
The last version of Unity, Unity 2023, I think, something. Yeah, before they went to Unity 6. In that branch, the input system hadn't matured yet, and it finally did mature, but you had to add it to your project. It was something you had to add to your project, and that's one of the things why, like with Unity 6, out of the gate is using the new input system. That actually brings up something. There was something about when I did. We want to go file, edit. Is it edit? Yeah, it is. I think it's under. Yeah, it's under project settings. Where is it? It's under other. I think it's under other settings.
System package?
What is that?
Is it an input system package or?
No. It's not input system manager. It's not these. These are specific to those packages. What we're looking for. Keep going down. Active input handling, and right now it's set to both, which is both the input manager and the input system. For our purposes, we'll click apply. Needs to be restarted, but so basically we're going to restart. I'm going to restart the editor, but can you do it at my own risk? But basically, we don't need to use the old input system. In fact, I think I'll go look at the. Let me just check. What's your assignments? For Lab 04, we're going to want to get rid of the old input system. All right, straight up. There's something weird that Unity has done something. Those of you who have probably taken another class, I think the XR class, might have heard about this. But when we get to the touchscreen, we're going to want to turn off the old input system because it's going to cause, there's a conflict between the new system and the old system that they basically have, there's a critical class that we're going to use. It's named the same between, and for obvious reasons, it's the same structure, same, everything down the same detail. It's there, but there's two copies of it. One in the old input system and there's one in the new input system. And when you have both of them, so there's a conflict between that structure. And just by doing that, we hopefully have eliminated any confusion between those two packages. So yeah, you guys are in an interesting place where getting rid of the old input system is probably what you want to do. There's no reason to, it's out there in tutorials. and that should give you a clue that that's old information. But you are at this point now, you should be able to know, hey, that's old. I shouldn't be using that, and I should be using a better input mechanism. So we're starting to jump back into game and simulation 2 again, because that's something that we're going to be talking significantly about tonight. And there'll probably be some fixes we have to do in that system tonight as well. But all right, I'm going to bring up Discord. So lecture today was pretty straightforward. So for those of you who are here in class, it will be, hey, get something up and going. Get something on the Android device. If you want to just do the spinning cube and get that up and going, that's perfectly fine. Otherwise, just jump into, if you got, do lab 2. Again, you saw how this was, because of how we built the piece from the previous class, I was able just to jump in, make a new panel, bring in those pieces, and then basically connect it to, through the gamepad, which is pretty much what you're going to do. You're going to come up with it some way that you're going to connect that through. Are there any other questions for me?
When I sign into Unity, should I use the email right here? Jen Torres?
No.
No.
No. Use your account, please. Yeah, use your account. That student's no longer here, so please don't use that account. Any other questions? All right. I got one from Discord coming in. Joseph, do you not have a microphone? Yeah, I can hear you.
I was going to ask if when I come tonight for the 6 p.m. class, if I could sign out the device.
Yes. In your case, yes. That would make sense. So we can handle that. We can handle that later tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording right now, and I'm gonna get this video up onto YouTube.